Hello, you guys. So our first week, we're just going to do some color blending exercises. And I think you'll find them, even though they're not so creative, it will give you a sense of understanding a little bit more how these pencils work, especially if you're not real familiar with working with Prismacolors. And it's kind of relaxing. I did this one earlier just to kind of see how it went. It didn't take too long, but you have a whole week to do it, and you really won't need to post your results of this since it's not really a drawing. So to start off, you will see on the Google Classroom this document, and it tells you what you're going to do in each row. So row 1 will have this exercise, row 2, etc. And so there's 5, you want to make 5 squares. There's, I think, yeah, it could be a little bit more, a little bit less, but average of 5. So what I did is made a document that you can print out on your printer paper and just use that. Or if you want to go with a 9x12 and make your own, just make 8 rows down and 5 across. And you can try it that way. This is a little heavier, nicer paper, like an 80-pound drawing paper. Okay, so it says on the, and you want to have your, maybe even while you're watching this, you might want to have this handy. I'm not going to do all of them, but I'm just going to show you a little bit how we get started. The first row, you're going to be just, actually the first 3 rows, you're going to be working with value change. And so you want to pick a color that's not too light. You don't want to use yellow or a real pale color. Get a fairly dark color. So on this one I use purple. This one I'm going to use grass green. And you can write it down what it is. And this is just for you, so it's okay. And so you want to just start off with a light value. I'm right-handed, so I'm holding it just like a pencil and going upper right to lower left, back and forth, trying to get a nice smooth value. Medium pressure, not pushing too hard. Okay, so that tells me what my basic color is. Now I'm going to go lighter, darker, 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 just with pressure. So I'm going to start with the very lightest pressure I can do and still get a value. So I'm filling that in, light pressure. Then I go a little bit darker, and you want to fill in a decent amount, then a little darker, until finally on your last square you want to push as hard as you can and get the darkest value, and see if you can get an even transition. So this one maybe could be a little darker. So there's definitely a value change. And then on the second row, you're going to take the exact same color, and this time you're going to go from light to dark, excuse me, from dark to light using white, blending with white. So it would be like adding white paint to a mixture to make a tint. However, you're going to notice right away that it doesn't necessarily make it very light. It might, in some cases, make it a little darker. Picking up a little bit of. Okay, so I'm going to go with a fairly medium pressure here, not too dark. And then, in fact, I can go all the way across with that same pressure. That's probably the best way to do it. So that that variable is the same. There's no pressure difference like there was on this first row. So go all the way over with approximately the same medium light pressure. And then start going in with your white. And so maybe leave that by itself and then start adding a little white and overlaying it, and then a little bit more pressure with white. And notice, rather than getting lighter, it's almost blending it more and making it a bit darker. It's almost like using the colored pencil blender. So anyway, you can kind of get that sense. And then on the third one, using the same color again, lay down your color just like we've done so you can see what the medium pressure is. And then you're going to go from dark to light using the same pressure but with cross hatching. So on this first one, you're going to go in many different directions, so you're getting very little white of the paper in there. So I'm going in several different directions, and then maybe leave a little more space between your strokes on the next one, or maybe not go in as many directions. So you're getting an optical blending by leaving a little bit more white of the paper showing through. Kind of like what the pointillists did, where they mixed their colors by putting them side by side, and when you stood back, the colors blended. So this is sort of like white of the paper is being blended with it. So when you squint your eyes, it does look lighter. And then maybe the third one, a little bit more space between, and maybe or skinnier lines. So again, you're looking at it with your eyes squinted and you see more white, and then finally a lot of white. So it should have the appearance, especially when you stand way back, that it appears to be lighter. Now on the next row, you're going to pick any two warm colors, and that would be in the yellow, orange, red department here. So on this one, I picked Poppy Red, but I'm just going to take regular orange, and how about just yellow? And then you want to do two little squares that show each color. So you would make your half of your box one color and half. Now you're going to mix them with on top of each other, but change the order. So I would suggest telling yourself what order you're going to do. So orange first, and then yellow, and this one yellow, and then orange. Okay, so you remember. So this says orange first. And do it very lightly. So you're not, if you put a heavy pressure on, you're going to be adding wax to it, and it'll resist the second color a little bit more. And then here's my yellow. You can go a little heavier on your second color. So there's what it looks like with that combination. Now on this one, I'm going to do yellow first, lightly, and then the orange. And just kind of look and see if there's any difference by how it looks. Okay, and then you're going to use, kind of like we did on this row, you're going to use two different types of marks, like squiggles, etc. So we're on blend colors using different kinds of strokes, like dots, zigzags, crosshatch, or squiggles. So it doesn't matter what order you use. So maybe I'll just do little curly cues, and then yellow. So you should be getting like an optical blending again with that. And on this one, maybe zigzag, 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 zigzag. And we are going to do one lesson where you're doing a landscape where you use lots of different types of strokes, almost like brush strokes would be. Okay, and then the next one you're doing two cool colors. So on this one I used ultramarine blue and grass green. So maybe I'll take a different one. Let's use true blue. and let's use a cool red, maybe a cool red like, or how about purple? True blue and purple. Okay, so again, you lay down both colors so you can see what they look like separately. And, you know, do it a little neater than me. And then you're going to tell yourself the order. So on this one, we're going to lay one on top of the other, first with true blue and then purple. And on this one, purple first and then true blue. And you can fill in more of the square than what I'm doing. Okay, so true blue first, very lightly, not heavy pressure, and then purple on top, and see what they look like together. So you want to get, the more blending you do with colored pencil, just like with paint, the more sophisticated it is. So you want to get used to this idea of blending. So on this one, we're going to put the purple first, and then the true blue. And they do look slightly different. Usually it tends to be the top color is a little more dominant. Okay, and then it says on the rest of them, we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It might be a good idea to label them so you know where you are. So we're on row 5. In square 4, you're going to layer the colors lightly using a colorless blender on top. And in square 5, you're going to layer your colors over and over, back and forth, using more pressure for a darker final outcome. So I'm going to, it doesn't matter what order I do this, but I'll start with the true blue and put my purple. And do it kind of lightly, very lightly, like I'm just tickling the paper. Now I'm going to take this colorless blender, the Prismacolor Colorless Blender, and I'm going to go over it. And you'll see that it sort of eliminates the tooth of the paper, the texture of the paper, and starts to blend them, and actually looks darker somewhat. But it kind of gives it a nice blending effect. And then on this one, this last one, we're gonna go back and forth, start with one color, then the next color, then back with true blue again, and then back with purple again. Back and forth, and start to get more and more pressure until you get a fairly dark mixture of the two colors. So even though the colorless blender darkened it, it's not as dark as just using pressure with these colors. Okay, row 6. Choose 2 primary colors. That would be red, yellow, or blue, and show each in the square. So it's going to make a difference on your primaries. For example, if you want a bright purple, you don't want to use an orangey red or a real turquoisey blue. So I chose process red and ultramarine blue, and then I mixed them by interchanging the order that I blended them, just like we've been doing. And then on the last 2, it didn't say to do this, but I would suggest try a different version of that primary color. So instead of using ultramarine blue, I use true blue, and instead of processed red, I use mulberry. And then I reverse the order. So I put true blue first. So that's the next one, and I won't even do that for you. I think that's self-explanatory. With two primary colors, it could be yellow and blue, or it could be red and yellow to make an orange. But the secondary colors are purple or violet, orange, and green. So you should get a purple, an orange, or a green by mixing any 2 primaries. Then on the next one, this is a little bit different. you're going to be creating a dull, like a brownish, grayish, kind of muddy color, which is nice to be able to have. So instead of just getting a brown pencil, you can mix colors for a little more interesting look, especially if you're doing landscapes or animals, things like that, pottery. So I used all different blends of complementary colors. On this one I used true blue and orange, like blue and orange are opposite. Let me get the color wheel so you can see this. So complementary colors are any colors that are opposite. So purple and yellow, red and green, or Christmas colors, purple and yellow, maybe Easter colors, and then Halloween colors, blue and orange. So any of those combinations. So I use blue and orange on this, yellow and purple on that. And, you know, be specific about which yellow and which orange and so on. This is apple green and crimson red. So then I tried a different blue and orange. I used ultramarine and poppy red. Now you notice how I left a little bit of those colors showing on the edges so you could kind of see what the original color was. And then in the middle, so I kind of started with, let's pick a green here. Here, let's use apple green again. And I went across almost all the way. So this is apple green. And a red. So I'll use poppy red. And so I'm going to go the opposite direction. So there's the poppy red. And now once they start to blend, you'll see it starts to get sort of a brown. And if you want to go back over it again, this is the, oh, that's not true, that's apple green. Here's apple green again. And poppy red. So you can see we're getting a lovely earth color there. So try different combinations. Again, remembering your complementary colors, and try different versions, because in a set of colored pencils you should have quite a few different reds, especially this set of 24, which is nice to have. You should have various reds, yellows, and blues. Okay, so you'll go across and do that. And I then at the end, or maybe wouldn't have to be squished in here, it could be one of these, try just mixing 3 primary colors together, because really whenever you mix 3 primaries you are mixing complementaries. So if you are mixing yellow, red and blue make purple, so you're actually mixing yellow and purple. Or if you mix blue with red and yellow, well, red and yellow is orange, so you're mixing blue and orange. So any of the 3 primary colors. But again, depending on which primaries you use, here's a yellow, here's a true blue, and let's use process red. So here's process red, here's yellow, canary yellow, and true blue. So here's the red starting to go across here. Starting to go across here. And here's more blue added to it. More blue added to it. And here's the yellow on this. And here is the blue on this, yellow, more yellow on this. So you want to make sure you show your 3 colors and then have that mixture of what it comes out to look like. And then finally, the last row, you want to choose any 4 colored pencils. It doesn't matter what they are, but you know, make sure they're not all 4 reds, but just different colors. Layer the colors in different order in each square and show the colors in order left to right in little marks above the box. So on this one I use crimson red, true blue, yellow, and ultramarine blue. So here's, I'll use true blue, crimson red, how about grass green, and yellow. So I'll use those 4 colors. You might want to write them down, but you're going to vary the order. So in this one I'll maybe do yellow first, and then this one I'll do yellow in the middle. And on this one I'll go back to the 3rd one is yellow, and then the last one is yellow. And maybe I'll do red first on this one, and red last on this one. Grass green first, grass green in the middle, and so on. So you get different, do grass green last, different variations of, I don't remember, processed red. Actually, I think I changed reds. Here we go. Yeah, it was crimson red. So it's better to write them down so you remember what you had. And then you have a different order here each time. Hopefully I did a different order every time. And yellow. So on this one I'm going to do true blue first, lightly, not hard, then crimson red, and because there's going to be primary colors in there, you're going to get a dull color. And then the grass green, and the canary yellow. So that's what I did on these. I used different colors on this, but you can see they have a slight variation in how they came out depending on the order that I put them. Left to right means bottom, second, third, and fourth. Okay, so enjoy doing this, and then next week we're going to talk about ribbon snakes and worms. And if you want to continue trying some color blending on ribbons, I'll show you some ways or some instruction on doing your color blending, like going through the color wheel on one, maybe doing complementary colors on this one, and so on. And I'll show you, I have examples that some of my high school kids have done where they actually took their ribbons and created a really interesting creative drawing, adding something that they treasure in the middle, or something along those lines. But that's next week. All right. Have fun blending.